Welcome back. Tonight we're venturing into the hidden side of airports, where silence and shadows linger after the last flight departs. These are true stories from people who found themselves alone in these vast empty spaces and encountered something terrifying. Not just lost luggage or missed flights, but chilling, unexplainable events that haunt them to this day. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare to discover the side of air travel the brochures never show you. Let's begin. Clara worked the graveyard shift, late-night security at a small regional airport nestled between sprawling farmlands and a quiet, unassuming town. The air hung heavy with the silence of slumbering travelers and the faint scent of jet fuel. She was used to the quiet emptiness after midnight, the echoing footsteps in the deserted terminal, the hum of the ventilation system her only companion. Most nights were uneventful, a monotonous cycle of checking cameras and patrolling empty gates. But one week, a strange anomaly disrupted the routine. While reviewing the security camera feeds, she noticed a man. He was an oddity, dressed in an outdated suit, something straight out of a black and white film. He was always walking down Concourse B, a section of the airport that had been closed for the night, the gates locked and the lights dimmed. It was well past operating hours and no flights were scheduled to depart from there until morning. The most peculiar thing was that he always vanished at gate B12, a gate shrouded in shadow and silence. He never opened a door, never turned a corner to disappear into a side corridor. There was no logical explanation for his disappearances. Instead, he simply dissolved into thin air, his image flickering and fading on the grainy security footage as if he were nothing more than a ghost in the machine. At first, Clara tried to rationalize it. She thought it was a glitch in the system, a trick of the light, or perhaps a figment of her sleep-deprived imagination. But the figure continued to appear night after night, his presence an unsettling constant in the otherwise predictable stillness of the airport. Her partner Mark, a seasoned security guard with a pragmatic outlook, initially dismissed it as nonsense. Until one night, he glanced at the monitor and saw the man himself, walking with a purpose that defied explanation. The third night, something even stranger occurred. The phantom paused in his spectral stroll, turned his head slowly and seemed to look directly into the camera, his gaze piercing the veil of the digital screen. A sudden, inexplicable wave of cold swept through the security office, sending shivers down their spines and raising goosebumps on their arms. Determined to understand the phenomenon, Mark, armed with a flashlight and a healthy dose of skepticism, waited at gate B12, while Clara, her heart pounding in her chest, watched the cameras, her eyes glued to the monitor displaying Concourse B. The figure walked right through Mark, phasing through him as if he were nothing more than a shadow. He felt only a bone-chilling cold, a sudden drop in temperature that lingered long after the figure had passed. Shaken, they sought answers and later learned from an old maintenance worker, a man who had been with the airport since its early days, that a businessman had tragically died of a heart attack at that very gate decades ago, clutching his briefcase, waiting for a flight he would never board. After that night, the phantom never appeared again on the security monitors, as if being seen, acknowledged, and perhaps even understood, finally set him free from his endless spectral journey. But Clara never felt truly alone in those halls again. The silence was different now, filled with an unspoken awareness. Every cold spot, every flicker of the lights, every unexplained sound became a reminder of the lonely traveler still walking Concourse B, forever caught between destinations. Airports, she realized with a newfound sense of unease, are not just places of transit, but also places where powerful emotions linger, where farewells echo and dreams take flight. And sometimes those emotions, those memories, replay themselves for anyone who is watching closely enough. Some passengers, she understood, never truly leave the terminal, their stories etched into the very fabric of the building. Ben, a college student, lost his bright blue suitcase at baggage claim after a long flight home. Days later, it was delivered to his house missing its lock and reeking of a foul, coppery smell. Inside, his clothes were soaked in dried blood, and a strange wax-sealed wooden box sat among them. Beneath the box was a Polaroid of a dark, blood-stained room with a single chair. Ben called the police, who took the suitcase and evidence, but never told him what was inside the box or whose blood stained his belongings. The case went cold, and Ben was left with nightmares and a fear of flying. He never learned what happened to his bag during those missing days, or why it was returned to him like a warning. For a brief moment, his life crossed paths with something unspeakable. His suitcase became a vessel for someone else's horror before being sent back as a chilling message. sometimes the things we lose come back changed, and sometimes they bring something back with them. Hector, a nighttime janitor, a man of routine and quiet dedication, was assigned to clean a forgotten office tucked away in an old disused wing of the airport, a place where echoes lingered and dust motes danced in the faint moonlight filtering through grimy windows. It was a space that time seemed to have bypassed, filled with relics of a bygone era of aviation. As he was tidying up, sorting through forgotten files and discarded equipment, the heavy steel door, the only exit, slammed shut with a resounding boom that echoed through the silent wing and locked him inside. The mechanism clicked ominously, sealing him in. Panic began to set in as he reached for his radio and phone, desperate for contact with the outside world. But both were useless. No signal, no help. Just static and a blank screen mocking his isolation. He was completely cut off. As he waited, the silence became a heavy blanket, amplifying every creak and groan of the old building. Then, strange noises began, subtle at first, but growing increasingly distinct, scratching from behind stacks of dusty boxes, as if something was trying to claw its way out, or perhaps in. Then came whispering, faint and unintelligible, seeming to emanate from the shadows lurking on the shelves, a chorus of voices just beyond the edge of hearing. And finally, chilling him to the bone, a child's giggle, high-pitched and unsettling, echoing in the pitch-black room, bouncing off the walls like a malevolent spirit. He fumbled for his headlamp, its beam cutting through the oppressive darkness, but shadows moved just beyond its reach, dancing at the periphery of his vision, always just out of sight. The air grew colder, and the shelving units rattled violently, as if shaken by invisible hands, sending boxes tumbling to the floor with a deafening crash. Hector, now consumed by terror, pounded on the door with all his might, desperate to escape the nightmare unfolding around him, as the whispers and scratching grew louder, more insistent, seeming to come from inside the very walls themselves, closing in on him, suffocating him. Hours stretched into an eternity, each moment a fresh wave of terror washing over him. Until finally, as the first rays of dawn crept through the grimy windows, his supervisor, alerted by his absence, unlocked the door. He found Hector collapsed on the floor, a broken man, shaken and sobbing uncontrollably, his eyes wide with a fear that would haunt him forever. The door, upon inspection, had been locked from the outside, a physical impossibility according to the locking mechanism. Unless someone or something with knowledge of the building's secrets, or perhaps something not entirely human, wanted him trapped, wanted him to suffer. Hector quit a week later, unable to shake the memory of that night, unable to return to that haunted room, a place forever tainted by the unseen. Some places in airports, like forgotten corners of the mind, are best left undisturbed, abandoned for a reason, their stories buried beneath layers of dust and silence. And sometimes, what's left behind in those forgotten spaces, the echoes of past lives and lingering energies, doesn't want to be alone, seeks companionship in the darkness. The airport's quiet corners, those hidden areas where the veil between worlds seems thin, hold secrets best left undisturbed, mysteries that are better left unsolved. Not every locked door is meant to be opened. Some are sealed for a reason, guarding something that should remain hidden. And not every night, especially in the labyrinthine depths of an airport, ends with escape. Some nights, the darkness claims its own. Airports, bustling hubs of human activity, are places of constant motion, where lives intersect for fleeting moments before diverging once more. But what happens when the transient nature of these spaces is disrupted by something unexplained? Pilots, controllers, and ground crew at a Midwest airport have all reported the same chilling sight, a phenomenon that defies logic and challenges our understanding of reality. It began subtly, whispers and hushed tones, but soon became a recurring event. A woman in a white dress appearing on runway 22L, only to vanish as planes approach, leaving behind an unsettling silence and a lingering sense of unease. The incidents escalated. One cargo flight aborted landing, a decision made in the face of the impossible. The pilots, seasoned professionals, reported seeing her, clear as day, standing at the runway's edge, a spectral figure amidst the fog, illuminated by landing lights, a beacon in the night, yet a harbinger of dread. A search was immediately launched, but ground crews found nothing. No footprints, no sign of disturbance, just the cold, empty tarmac. The stories spread like wildfire. A baggage driver, going about his routine, slammed on his brakes to avoid her, his heart pounding in his chest. But she disappeared before impact, leaving him shaken and questioning what he had seen. Another pilot, circling for landing, watched her for nearly a minute, a silent observer in the sky. He strained his eyes, trying to make sense of the apparition, before she dissolved into the night, leaving him with a chilling sense of the unknown. The staff, initially skeptical, began to acknowledge the phenomenon, giving it a name: the Lady of 22L, a legend whispered among night crews, a cautionary tale shared in hushed tones during coffee breaks. An air traffic controller named David, a man of logic and reason, found himself increasingly intrigued. He couldn't dismiss the numerous accounts, so he decided to dig into local history, searching for any explanation, any clue. His research led him to a 1950s tragedy, a forgotten incident that resonated with the ghostly sightings. He discovered an old newspaper article detailing how a young woman in a white dress died in a car crash, a horrific accident that claimed her life. The location of the crash? On the very land where the runway now sits, a chilling coincidence that sent shivers down his spine. The sightings always happen on foggy nights, when the veil between worlds seems thin, as if she's searching for a way home, forever lost and yearning for a resolution she can never find. Official reports, bound by protocol and a need for rational explanations, blame fatigue or tricks of the light, dismissing the accounts as mere hallucinations. But those who work the late shift, those who have witnessed the impossible with their own eyes, know better. When the fog rolls in, blanketing the runway in an ethereal mist, they watch the runway a little more closely, their senses heightened, their minds open to the possibility of the unexplainable. Some souls, it seems, are forever stranded between worlds, caught in a limbo between life and death, haunting the places where their journeys ended, forever seeking closure or perhaps, simply, a way to be remembered. The Lady of 22. L is a reminder that not every mystery can be explained by radar, that some phenomena lie beyond the reach of our instruments and our understanding. Some stories are written in the silence between arrivals and departures, in the spaces where the rational world gives way to something more elusive. And some passengers are never meant to leave, forever bound to the place where their earthly journey came to an abrupt and tragic end. Even in a world of technology, where science seeks to explain every phenomenon, there are things we'll never understand, mysteries that will forever remain unsolved. The runway remains her final path, a stage for a tragedy that replays itself on foggy nights, a haunting reminder of a life cut short and a spirit forever searching for peace. Our journey through haunted terminals and ghostly runways ends here. These stories remind us that fear can find us anywhere, even in places built for new beginnings. Next time you're in an airport late at night, listen to the silence. You might not be alone. If you have your own unsettling airport story, share it in the comments below. Subscribe for more true horror, and remember, some mysteries are always waiting for their next flight. Until next time, stay safe and try to get some sleep.